longer fear death. A Salvia trip report by Fat Tony, posted to earwig.org November 24th, 2012. This report is a summation of my Salvia experiences over the past 4 years. Let me start out by saying that it's been an unexpected journey of consciousness changing. At times my experiences have been familiar and seem to echo the reports of many others, while at other times there is no reference to describe the experience, or for some reason, no such experience even manifested, despite a high dose. When I first heard of Salvia, I was intrigued by stories of how it knocked cocky, hardcore drug users on their asses and made them piss their pants. I also became aware of a certain respect that was needed to help guide one through this experience. I was quite nervous on my first attempt, seeing a friend go first and completely freak out, luckily while on the couch with 5 others to look after him. My hit actually got sucked through the bubbler prematurely, and I wasn't able to obtain a good hit at all. There were too many people waiting to go, so I opted out after my failed attempt. My next attempts were with chewing leaves that I bought online, and smoking these said leaves through a corncob pipe. I also smoked an extract bought online through a bong. Nothing extreme happened, and I was quite disappointed. There were nuances of my perspective changing though. I would hear music coming from the room above me, and the drums or beat would seem to take me into a trance, almost like falling into a dream. I would almost see a campfire with a drum circle around it, but as soon as I became aware of the visuals I would snap back into reality. On my next try, I smoked 4 hits of Vivec in 1 minute in front of my buddy, convinced that this would be my breakthrough. This resulted in some uncontrollable laughter, and for some reason, I felt like an orc or Shrek. It's really hard to explain, and I've never experienced anything like this after that one time. I wasn't ready to give up though. The same thing happened to me when I first got into weed as a sophomore in high school. It took like 5 different times before I really got high, but when I did, oh boy, I was fucking gone. Took around 8 rips off a bong and got up to start walking. I remember feeling a wave of energy run through my body, and it really affected my ability to walk, like as if I was in a riptide. The next thing I remember, I was waking up on the ground and people were running up to me to see if I was okay. I was on no other drugs, just weed. I felt really high, and actually blacked out twice after that within the next 30 minutes. So to sum this point up, once I could actually get high on weed, it was like I broke some barrier in my brain, and that shit could really fuck me up. Like once I hallucinated these bubbles running through my skin, in my veins and up my arms, around my face from the back of my head. It wasn't painful, just extremely bizarre and awkward. So with Salvia it was sort of the same thing. It took a lot of tries, but once I broke that barrier, it was like unlocking that part of my brain. Alright, so back to the interesting stuff. At first for me, Salvia was like getting into a trance. I had to sit down because after I smoked it, I could not move for the life of me. My body was like a block of cement, and I would get crazy pixelated visuals. Nothing of significance though. To be honest, I wasn't really getting anything out of the experience, and I enjoyed pot 100 times more. Sometimes I'd try smoking Salvia on top of a bowl of ganja, but this just seemed to make the weed high unpleasant. It wasn't until a couple more tries that I really broke through. After experimenting with Salvia over the last couple of years, I've come to realise many interesting facts that most of my peers or those YouTube kids never bring to light. I know that different people have different experiences, it's just the way things are, our biological makeup and such. But I do often wonder if there is more at play here. These facts that I'm talking about have to do with guiding the experience, almost like preparation in meditating. I find it most important for inexperienced users to realise that you have to let go, give in, and say goodbye to your ego. I've seen too many people say that it did nothing, this stuff doesn't work, and it's just a waste of time. That's exactly how I first experienced it, and now I know why I didn't break through those first few times. So upon smoking, I like to take some time to get a bowl prepared. I meditate for like 10 minutes. I focus on a goal, or just nothing at all, clearing my mind the best I can. No music either. I do it most of the time in the dark. I don't usually have a sitter. Honestly, I don't even need one because I get the most out of it when I'm lying down in silence. I mean, I can't even move unless I really try anyways. So I smoke and hold it in, and I know it's coming right away. I start to become more aware of myself, my body, its limits and borders, my mind and its current thought patterns. But something else usually happens on top of this. Honestly, I can't really explain in words because I can't exactly remember how it happens, but I know when I'm there it's a familiar feeling. I'm going somewhere else, or trying at least. I have to let go, let my body go numb, let my awareness transform. It feels good to let go anyway. Sometimes there's a pixelated wave of energy coming in from the left. Usually I start to sweat in really bizarre places, like certain parallel lines throughout my body or even from inside my ears or the spot in between my eyes, and this sweating is extreme. This usually starts out hot and becomes cold. I believe that this is part of the process of my conscious energy spirit, or soul, or whatever you want to call it, leaving my body. It's so weird because I never experienced these specialized points of sweat any other time. So this is when I usually become aware of them. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but they are inhabitants of another realm. I can't even really see them in familiar terms. I see them as energy beings, but it's more like feeling them there and definitely hearing them. Usually they're saying, "Quick, come. What are you waiting for? Come with us." There's a sense of urgency, but not out of fear. It's more like excitement, as if they want to take me somewhere fun. But very rarely have I actually gone though. If it happens, it's right away, and I'm transformed back into their world almost instantly. This is where I agree with people that say it feels like zippers. The best way to describe it is that it feels like the boundaries of my body, the skin on my arms, the side of face, and just everywhere feels like it's merging through a barrier and becoming the landscape of the other realm. Like my arm becomes a river, and I forget that it used to be my arm. A world emerges from inside me and flips me inside out, and somehow my awareness crosses over. And they are always there too. It's usually a different setting. A mountain resort, a carnival, a marketplace. Seems like a totally normal world when I'm there. Everything seems so happy too, so alive and energetic. But as soon as I'm there, it is fleeting. I'm slowly coming back. A lot of times I'm actually aware of this other realm and the current reality at the same time. That place is overlaid on this physical reality in my vision. I can perceive both, and if I really focus, I can bring myself back to reality instantly, while the Salvia realm disappears. But that is not the point for me. I want to stay there as long as possible. Try to relax and let go as much as possible because I think it's my body that brings me back in the first place. I actually think this could be part of the dying experience. This is actually referenced in James Arthur's book, People Darkness. I know I wasn't influenced by this book because I read it 2 years after having these experiences. But it makes sense to me that consciousness exists in our energy, our spirit, and when our physical vessels die, we exist somewhere else. It feels very welcoming too. It's kind of like the movie What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. And I also did not realise this movie connection until I saw it after many trips to the Salvia world. But the whole part where he's moving around in a painting is pretty close to the actual experience. I always feel like my true self too. Like various parts of my mind shut down and I'm existing as me. The same me that I was as a child, and the materialistic world just does not seem very important at all. These personas, these egos of ours really mean nothing. Some revelations I've had from Salvia is that our purpose for existing is to feel good. When we feel this uplifting and loving energy in life, on a soul level we are moving in the right direction in the physical. Like a way to measure our spiritual progress. Words cannot really explain these revelations though, as many know. Also, I've experienced a sensation that my perception of reality as a human is akin to looking out of 2 eye holes and using my head and body to move around and bring into view my reality. At the same time, I've been aware of another reality existing behind me. I was actually attached to it and poking out of that reality through my face to view this one. It sounds so weird, but it's like in that world, everything is connected. Its landscape and inhabitants. The physical body allows us to separate and poke out into 3D physicality. There is no separation in the spiritual realm, like how we perceive it here in this physical existence. I actually believe that there isn't separation here like we think there is, but our minds do a very good job of shaping and creating this 3D lucid dream we call life. So, one last interesting fact I would like to use to bring my story to a close is that I've discovered that being under the influence of alcohol actually enhances and prolongs the experience. I've had a genuine trip for 1.5 hours, where beings entered my body and existed within me, like my stomach was a realm for them. They were talking to me, and I can distinctly remember 3 with different personalities. One was a very young girl, around 8 years old. Another was an older, wise man. The third was an adolescent and playful boy. They were basically just hanging out, joking around and just swimming around inside of me. It felt kinda good, like they were keeping me company in a way. Other times on alcohol, I've experienced being out of my body and moving sideways through a wall. My overall awareness expanded outside the boundaries of the room. One time, I actually blacked out instantly, and I can vaguely remember seeing a tunnel of pure white light, and it felt extremely blissful. I barely remember it, but what I do remember was probably the best feeling I have ever experienced. True bliss and love. One of my last times experimenting with Salvia, I actually failed to go anywhere. The same onset sensations happened, the sweating, the awareness change, but it was in a weaker format. Instead of being aware of them, it was my thoughts that were intensified, telling me to let go. But it wasn't anyone else, it was a part of me. I was back to normal after 5 minutes of trying to leave. I know it has nothing to do with the dose either. Some of my more powerful experiences have been after some of the smallest doses. I'm excited to continue life and visit the Salvia world every now and then. It truly brings me back to my core, where I know who I am and what I am all about. And I only need to go there every once in a while to remind myself of this, and how small this reality is in the bigger scheme of things. And the last point I have to make, because of Salvia, I do not fear death. Back once again with another funky Salvia trip report. Really enjoyed reading this one. It's actually very interesting, the fact that he referenced this James Arthur's book, People Darkness. I'd never heard of that before, definitely have to check it out. The full title is People Darkness, Perceptual Transformation Through Salvia Divinorum, and the description on this site on goodreads.com says, when James Arthur decided to experiment with Salvia Divinorum, a Mexican visionary plant sacred to the Mazatecs, he was expecting a hallucinogenic experience, but not the transformation of his entire view of the world. With repeated sessions over the course of several years, he began returning to the same inner landscape, where he found himself entering a unique state of thoughtless awareness and accessing a mode of language that articulated a distinctive form of understanding and communication. The repeated immersion in these states of trance, as well as the analysis of their approach and withdrawal, led to a profound reassessment of the nature of our normal perception and a re-evaluation of our habitual sensory bias in defining what we normally refer to as the real world. That sounds really interesting, I definitely need to get on that. Might do a little review of it, to be fair, shake things up on the channel. Can't believe I've never heard of that. Big ups to Fat Tony for enlightening us with that. And I've never heard of that. I think I've seen the poster for that What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. I've seen that, yeah, one of the iconic stills from the movie where he's waltzing about in that painting. I've never actually personally experienced anything like that on Salvia, although I've only ever done Salvia once, and it was one of the very first psychoactive substances. It was the first ever psychoactive substance I tried that wasn't cannabis. I didn't get anything like that, I just got this, the uncontrollable laughter. A thing about this report that highlights the bizarre nature of Salvia is how he says that his lower dose experiences could actually be stronger than, say, his high dose, say like 40x experiences, because obviously it comes in a range of strength, doesn't it, Salvia? And obviously then you can go as high as you want. If you want to just have like bare tokes on it, you could have like 10 tokes of 10x, or like 1 toke of 40x, and it all fluctuates really. But yeah, like he says, it's very unpredictable, the experience, which is not so common really with psychedelics, obviously, for the most part. This is a big generalization, but the more of a substance you take, you are more likely to have, say, a profound breakthrough, mystical experience. But with Salvia, it really is all over the place. just proves that it's one of the wackiest psychoactive substances we know of, and that's why I love featuring it. I can't get enough of it. Definitely features some of the most insane experiences on the channel. Another interesting parallel with DMT that I've noticed is that the entities that many people encounter on Salvia are these sort of jester, jokey type entities that inhabit these other realms. And they also seem, another parallel is also that they seem to be constituted of energy rather than being made of anything physical. Although it is possible to experience something that looks very physical, as in human level, flesh physical, on psychedelics. More so I'd say with like deliriants, even though obviously the most famous is like the Hat Man, who's like a shadow type entity. It is possible to actually see genuine people on, say, like Datura, sitting at the foot of your bed like, what you saying, lad? And then you're talking to them like, yeah, not bad, just had a sick day. And then you look away, turn back to them, and they've just poofed out of existence. It's so interesting that you can be so engaged with that and not have any idea that you're even on a substance, which also is another parallel between deliriants and salvia, where oftentimes you read loads of these reports and people are like, they have no idea that they're even on a substance. They just think that like, oh wow, this is reality and always has been, which can be quite freaky. But if you do your research and know what you're getting into, again, if you just let go and give in, it can be quite cathartic. This guy obviously had a seriously positive experience with salvia. I mean, conquering your fear of death is a big achievement, to be honest. So I'm really glad that this guy's salvia experience went well. And that is another reason I'm so infatuated with him, is because it can go extremely twisted in one sense, but can also be immensely enlightening in another fashion, which is a testament to its unorthodox nature, and probably why the more extreme psychonauts like to hunt it down and engage with it, which I think, yeah, that's fair enough. I think one day I probably would like to try it in a controlled setting. I think this guy makes a good point that probably the best way to do it might be by yourself. I'd say for the first few times you try it, just be safe and have a sitter. If you wanted to go deeper into it, probably best not to have people around you, because it can be a distraction, and obviously you're warping reality so much that you don't think you'll actually interpret people being next to you as your friends. You'll probably see them as some form of like fucking goblin being or anything really, because oftentimes when you're going really, really deep into the psychedelic state, a psychedelic state, people around you can actually act as a distraction and sort of stop you from letting go, because it's sort of something that tethers you to reality, your connection with other people. And just a really interesting report, and great to see that there was a glimpse of sort of the source, the white light, the beauty, the infinite singularity of God, of the universe, or whatever, that appears in lots of mystical reports. It's interesting that I think I've seen that in other salvia reports. I mean, it's definitely 100% possible, because all these, like, if you're having a breakthrough on any substance, you can sort of reach that Godhead-like experience that is most commonly associated with like 5-MeO DMT, or like high dose mushy and LSD experiences. But it's also very much possible in salvia, as we have seen today. So yep, hope you guys enjoyed this one, and let me know what psychoactive substance you'd like me to feature next. Hope you all had a good weekend and enjoyed the Highest Point vlog. Probably going to appear on camera a bit more. I might start doing these commentaries on camera if people want to see that. But if not, then fair enough, my mate.